And I think it's a simple choice. Whether we continue to move forward and make progress in this country, turn things around and get this economy back on track, creating good paying jobs, or whether we go back to the failed policies that drove us into the niche to begin with. That's really what's at stake come November 2nd. That's the choice that we face. And let me put this in a little bit of context. Because obviously the economy isn't clicking on all cylinders. We're not getting the robust job growth that we would like to see at this stage. But let's recall for a second and remember that the day President Obama raised his hand and took the oath and became President of the United States, we were losing 800,000 jobs a month in this country. $17 trillion of wealth was already destroyed in the stock market. We had a negative 6.5% gross domestic product. The economy was in a free fall at that time. And the moment he said I do, he inherited a $1.5 trillion budget deficit. That's what he walked into. And since that time, we've had 8 consecutive months of private sector job growth. We're on track of seeing more private sector jobs created this year than in the entire 8 years of the Bush administration. Think about that. You know, as weak and as fraught as this economic recovery is right now, and I know we can do better, we're going to have more private sector jobs created this year alone than the entire 8 years of the previous administration, just to show you how deplorable and how lacking their economic policies were. Budget deficit was just forecast downwards by $200 billion because of additional revenue growth that we've had with the growing economy that we're seeing right now. That's what's happened between then and now. So the economy is stabilizing, we're starting to make progress, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And that's true out in Washington, it's true in Madison, it's true back home here, it's true for all of us involved. And that's why these elections are going to be very important. Now I want to introduce to you someone that I trust implicitly. I served with him in the House. He's a close personal friend of mine. I trust him with my life. What he did last summer at the State Fair should be proof enough that all of us can trust all of our lives in his care. But more importantly, I trust him with the leadership of this great state of Wisconsin. So help me in welcoming the next governor of this great state of Wisconsin, Tom Barrett.
Thank you very much, Ron. Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. I am delighted to be here tonight. I have to tell you, I've gone to many, many political events in my career, and I've been to this event before. This is the largest grassroots political event in the state of Wisconsin. That's where you are right now. And it's because of this guy right here, Ron Kine. I realize you wouldn't be here if you weren't a believer, so I feel a little bit like I'm preaching to the choir. It's a mighty big choir. But you have to realize, because I did serve with Ron in Congress, how fortunate Western Wisconsin is to have Ron Kine as a member of Congress. He is respected in Washington, D.C. beyond what anybody here can imagine, because of his intelligence, because of his work ethic, because of his integrity, because of his ability to work with people from all different parts of the political spectrum. People respect Ron Kine. And the only thing they like more than Ron Kine is Tawny Kine. And so people have to understand who the real boss is in the Kine family as well. Well, I'm here because I'm applying for a job. I would love to be the next governor of the state of Wisconsin. That's why I'm here tonight. That's why I'm here. And let me just take a couple minutes to tell you why I would love to be the next governor. I live in the southeastern part of the state, and so it's a little different world there. We don't have a lot of cows in my neck of the woods. So when I was in Congress, I always went to Ron and say, Ron, help me out with this, help me out with this. And as a governor, I'm going to continue to go to Ron and say, Ron, help me out with this, help me out with this, because he understands dairy policy like no one else in this state. And so that's the person I'm going to go to. But what we need in this state is we need more jobs where people can support their families. That's what the state of Wisconsin needs. That's what throughout the state, whether in rural areas, urban areas, north, south, east, and west. And my pledge to you is I will do everything I can from day one to create, retain, and attract jobs in the state of Wisconsin. That's job number one, and that's what I'm going to be committed to. And it's something I've worked on as the mayor of the city of Milwaukee. we've been proactive, we've been aggressive, we've been positive. And that's one of the big differences in this race. I love this state. And we're going to hear from Secretary Vilsack later, but he can tell you the same thing. The governor of a state has to be the #1 salesperson, has to be the #1 ambassador, has to be the #1 cheerleader. And that's what I want to be for this state. And on the other side, you've got two guys that love talking about how lousy things are. Well, things are challenging, and we know that. We all know that. But we also know that you don't sell a car, you don't sell a dress, you don't sell a house by saying how lousy it is. You won't buy it. You're not going to buy a dress if they tell you to look fat in it. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to buy a car if they say, well, it's going to break down. And so we have to have a leader in this state who recognizes all the wonderful things we have in this state. And I'll tell you what I've seen over the last 10 months. I call them Wisconsin values because I see them in every part of this state. I go to small communities, rural communities. I go to large cities. I see people who first and foremost want their kids and their grandkids to get a good education. They understand how important education is to the future of this country. Second, not surprisingly, they want to have a job where they can support their families. And that's why we're focusing on family-supporting jobs. Third, they want health care that's affordable and accessible. And that's something that Ron has worked on. That's something that we've got as a Badger Care program that we have to continue. And the fourth and final thing, and this is really special, because I see it again throughout the state. And as I was driving here from Alaska, just the incredible terrain that you see here, people recognize that we are blessed to live in a state that has such incredible natural resources. And whether it's the Mississippi River, the St. Croix River, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, or all the lakes and rivers in between, people recognize that we have a special obligation to our kids and our grandkids to make sure that we're good stewards. And those are Wisconsin values. I see them throughout this state. So what we're going to continue to do the next 7 weeks is we're going to talk about optimism, about the future. Because this is a country, this is a state that's always been optimistic. And I know, and you know, that we are in very difficult times. But it's that Wisconsin spirit, that's American spirit, that has got us through this. And we're not going to get through this if we go around saying how lousy everything is and how we're going to be going into reverse. That's what we have to change. And so I'm here to ask you for your support. I'm here to thank Ron for all the great things he's done. And I'm also here to ask you to help Ron, because it is a tough year. And we all know it's a tough year. When I got into this race, the White House came to me and said, we are so thankful that you got in this race. And I said to him, well, I wanted to pick the toughest year possible. And I think we succeeded in that. But we are in a very competitive race that we're going to win. And the reason we're going to win it is because people throughout this state realize that it really isn't a referendum. The other side wants it to be a referendum. Well, we all know that we're not coming out of this as fast as we want to. But it's not a referendum. It's a choice. And I've traveled the state for 10 months, and I have not found, and I'm not exaggerating, I have not found one person who has said to me, hey, let's go back to those George Bush policies. Not one. Not one. And so our job is to be optimistic, is to be positive, and is to move this state forward. That's what we're going to do. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next governor of the great state of Wisconsin, everyone. Tom Bear. Thank you. Thank you. Listen, I also noticed that State Representative Mark Radcliffe joined us here this evening. Mark, thank you for coming. Thanks for being here. And I forgot to thank Leon Paff, who this wouldn't be a corn roast without the hay and all the decorations and that. So Leon, wherever you are, thank you so much. And Leon's son, our acting state director of the Farm Service Administration, Brad Paff, is with us tonight too. So Brad, thank you for your service wherever you are right now. And I want to